Stanza 1. This poem has been expounded to me as a description of the poet's quest for love. In an allegory, he shows how we looked for it in vain from that image of earthly devotion, the nightingale. He warns men that it comes not by humiliation and sorrow. He questions the magic garden, but its breezes cannot answer him. Finally, he concludes that love is not that which lies upon the lips of men, and calls upon the cupbearer to silence their idle talk with the wine of divine knowledge. Stanza 2. The garden of Erem was planted by the mythical king Shaddad, the son of Ad, the grandson of Erem, who was himself the son of Shem. The tribe of Ad settled in the sandy deserts near Aden, where Ad began the building of a great city, which his son completed. Round his palace, Shaddad planted a wonderful garden which was intended to rival in beauty the Garden of Eden. When it was finished, he set out with a great attendance to take a view of it, but they were come within a day's journey of the place. They were all destroyed by a terrible noise from heaven. The city, they tell us, is still standing in the deserts of Aden, being preserved by Providence as a monument of divine justice, though it be invisible unless very rarely when God permits it to be seen. A favor one Kulaba pretended to have received in the reign of Caliph Muawiyah, who sending for him to know the truth of the matter. Kulaba related his whole adventure, that, as he was seeking a camel he had lost, he found himself on a sudden at the gates of the city, and entering it saw not one inhabitant, at which being terrified, he stayed no longer than to take with him some fine stones, which he showed the Caliph. And I guess this is from a comment, when it was finished, he showed the Caliph, is a quote from Sale's Quran. Kolaba? I'm not, it's not quite a, was it part of the preface? Because that doesn't quite sound like it's a quote from the Quran. But anyways, Sudi says that Hafiz composed this poem in a beautiful garden belonging to Shah Chukja and called him by the Bagi Erem after Shaddad's legendary paradise. And there's a quote from Darmstetter, the Tres sur the Indi, which yeah, it's done, huh? Yeah, I'm not confident about it. Talk about Jamshid and Yazdan and all that. A few miles from Peshawar, Darmester goes on to relate that there's a dried up pond called the Talab-e-Jamshid, into which the king is said to have been cast his magic cup. The head man of the village told the French traveler that a knife had been discovered there bearing this inscription. You know, the sword Excalibur, could this be where that comes from? This pond was dug by me, Jamshid, 500 years before the Hijra. And then we have a quote about Jamshid, and another quote, which he translated. Jamshid is supposed to build Persepolis. There is a legend that his cup was found buried in its foundations, and that it was formed of an enormous turquoise. And it is said that he was the first to drink wine, and that he recommended it to his subjects as a health-giving beverage. He, too, was the father of chemistry and the possessor of the philosopher's stone. And of course, Islamic tradition says that intoxicants and games and gambling and are works of the devil, that intoxicants and even games of chance are something that the sin outweighs the benefit of it. There are herbs and stuff that could be with intoxicants and have their beneficial values, but can you have them without the intoxication? And At what point does the intoxication become excused? Because certainly for survival and stuff like that, some things may have to be done. But do they have to be done, or is it just what people want?